I used to believe in perfect endings. You know, the kind you see in movies where everything falls into place and you ride off into the sunset. That's what I thought I had when I met her at my cousin's wedding in 2020. She was the bridesmaid who caught everyone's attention, not just because of her looks, but because of how she carried herself with such confidence. The thing is, her past wasn't exactly picture perfect. Her friends were what you'd call the live fast type, the ones who maxed out credit cards at expensive clubs and sometimes ended up having to call their parents at 3 a.m. to bail them out. She'd been part of that scene too, complete with a few minor run-ins with local police for noise complaints and trespassing at private pools during late-night parties. But when we started dating, she told me she was done with all that. "I want something real," she said one night as we sat on my apartment balcony. "I'm tired of waking up with regrets and an empty bank account." I believed her because I saw the changes. She started paying attention to her credit card statements, cut back on expensive shopping sprees, and seemed genuinely interested in building a stable future. I had always been the careful type. Sure, I enjoyed going out with my college friends Ryan and Marcus for basketball games and occasional beers, but I never understood the appeal of living life on the edge. My idea of a good time was a weekend road trip or trying out a new restaurant, not getting into trouble with the law or drowning in debt. The contrast between our past lives actually made our relationship more meaningful to me. Here was someone who had seen both sides of life and consciously chosen the path I was already on. We moved in together after a year, and I watched her transform from someone who used to spend hundreds on impulse buys to someone who would compare prices at different grocery stores. When I proposed in late 2021, she cried and said I was her anchor. Her wild friends had mostly drifted away by then, which I saw as another positive sign. We planned a modest wedding, nothing too flashy, just close friends and family at a local venue. Then came her bachelorette party. Her old friend group somehow got wind of the wedding and insisted on throwing it. I was hesitant, but she assured me it would be fine. "They're part of my past," she said. "I can handle one night of catching up without falling back into old patterns." I trusted her judgment, even though the stories I heard later about that night made me uncomfortable. We got married in spring 2022, and the first year was everything I'd hoped for. We had game nights with my friends, tried cooking new recipes together, and talked about starting a family. But then her old friends started showing up again. It began with innocent coffee meetups, then turned into monthly girls' nights out. They would text her constantly, saying things like, "Don't become one of those boring married women," and "You're too young to give up on fun." I noticed the change gradually. The girls' nights increased to weekly events, sometimes twice a week. Money started disappearing faster from our joint account, but since I handled most bills anyway, I tried not to make it a big deal. I focused instead on helping her find a stable job, as she kept jumping between retail positions and office temp work. My friends, especially Marcus, started pointing out that something felt off. "She's out more than she's home," he said one day during our lunch break. But I defended her, convinced that she just needed to find the right balance between her old life and new responsibilities. That Saturday afternoon changed everything. I was lounging on our couch, watching a new Netflix series on my phone when it died. My charger was upstairs, and her phone was right there on the coffee table. I figured it wouldn't hurt to borrow it for a few minutes while she was in the shower getting ready for another night out. The moment I unlocked her phone, everything I thought I knew about our marriage crumbled. Message after message popped up from various unknown numbers, all responding to what looked like a personal ad. She had posted on multiple sites, offering to meet men in exchange for help with her credit card debt. One message particularly caught my eye, a man gushing about their amazing night and wanting to meet again that evening. I sat there, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. The shower was still running upstairs, giving me just enough time to forward some screenshots to myself as evidence. I needed proof, not just for potential legal reasons, but because part of me still couldn't believe this was real. When she came downstairs, I managed to act normal, though my hands were shaking as I texted Marcus. I needed his help to confirm what I suspected. If I was going to accept this horrible truth, I had to see it with my own eyes. Marcus picked me up in his truck at 8 p.m. We followed her car as she drove to a coffee shop downtown. She parked and went inside, where a man in his mid-30s was waiting. They didn't order anything, just walked straight out to his sedan. We kept our distance as they drove to a residential area. The house they stopped at looked like a typical suburban home, with a basketball hoop in the driveway and holiday decorations still up from last month. Through the living room window, we saw them together on the couch. I took pictures with my phone, even though every click of the camera felt like a stab to my chest. The drive back home was quiet. Marcus tried to talk about it, but I just stared out the window. My phone kept buzzing. He had started texting our friend group about what happened. By midnight, most of our social circle knew. The news spread fast. Her cousins Emma and Sophie, who she'd grown up with, sent her long messages saying they couldn't believe she'd do this. Her best friend from high school posted a long rant on social media about loyalty. Even her co-workers at the mall where she worked part-time started treating her differently. She never came home that night. Around 2 a.m., I got a long message from her. She wrote about how sorry she was, how she never meant for things to go this way, and how she hoped I could forgive her someday. I didn't respond. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings and paperwork. Since I had bought our house before marriage and kept it in my name, that part was simple. The divorce papers went through quickly. She didn't contest anything. I heard through mutual friends that she moved to a different city. Some said she went to stay with an aunt in Colorado. Others said she found a job in Texas. I didn't care enough to find out which story was true. My friends tried to help me move on. Ryan started inviting me to gym sessions, saying exercise would help clear my head. Marcus and his wife had me over for dinner twice a week, making sure I ate proper meals instead of just takeout. But the hardest part wasn't the loneliness or the legal stuff. It was dealing with the memories. Every corner of the house reminded me of some moment I'd thought was special. Cooking Sunday breakfast together, watching movies on rainy afternoons, planning our future while sitting in the backyard. I started renovating the house, not because it needed it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. I repainted every room, replaced the furniture, and redesigned the backyard. If I couldn't erase the memories, I could at least change their backdrop. 6 months passed this way. I threw myself into work, took extra projects, and spent weekends either working on the house or helping Marcus with his new food truck business. Anything to keep busy. Then one day, while clearing out the garage, I found a box of her old things, photos from our first vacation, birthday cards she'd written, little gifts she'd given me over the years. As I sat there looking at them, I realized something that would change how I moved forward with my life. Those mementos in the garage showed me that all the signs had been there from the start. The constant job hopping, the return of toxic friends, the increasing nights out, they weren't sudden changes. They were her true self showing through the facade she'd put up for me. I donated her leftover things to charity and finally deleted all our photos from my phone. That night, I invited Marcus and Ryan over for drinks in my newly renovated backyard. As we sat there, Marcus asked if I'd heard the latest news. She'd been posting on social media about moving to Seattle and starting fresh. Good for her, I said, and meant it. The anger had faded, leaving only a clear understanding of what happened. I tried to be her safety net, her path to a different life, but you can't force someone to change who they are. A year after everything fell apart, I ran into her twin cousins Emma and Sophie at a local festival. They apologized for not seeing the warning signs earlier. We grew up with her, Emma said. We should have known she wasn't ready for marriage. Sophie added that they hadn't heard from her in months. I focused on building my career and expanding my social circle. Marcus's food truck business took off, and I started helping him with the accounting on weekends. Ryan introduced me to his hiking group, and I discovered I actually enjoyed early morning trails more than late-night parties. The last time I heard anything about her was during a court hearing for the final divorce settlement. She appeared briefly by video call, looking tired and older somehow. When the judge lectured her about marriage vows and honesty, she broke down crying. That was it, the last time I saw her face. Sometimes new acquaintances ask me if I'm bitter about what happened. The truth is, I'm not. That chapter of my life taught me something valuable. People can pretend to change for love, but real change only happens when they want it for themselves. I still believe in love and marriage, but now I understand that someone's past isn't just a story they tell. It's a part of who they are. You can't save someone from themselves, and trying to do so usually means losing yourself in the process. These days, my house feels like my own space again. The renovations helped, but more importantly, time has turned those painful memories into lessons. I'm dating again, casually, taking time to really know people before making big commitments. Marcus jokes that I should write a book about my experience, but I think some stories are better left as personal growth moments. The woman I married didn't turn out to be my soulmate, but she did teach me what to look for in one, and more importantly, what to look out for. Life moves forward, whether we're ready or not. The key is to move with it, learning from each step instead of getting stuck in the pain of the past. My story isn't about betrayal anymore. It's about rebuilding and doing it right this time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.